Hey, people, I'm here. I'm just having a little technical difficulty. Had to reconnect one of my feeds real quick. So just bear with me while this connects up. And we are good. Yeah, we are good. And ta da, there I am. Hey, what's happening, people? How y'all doing? Welcome to another episode, The Messages in the Madness, with yours truly, Vernon Longhorn Davis. Greatly appreciate y'all being here. Let me turn on my chat so I can see y'all talking to me when you start talking to me. Let's see. Okay, what did I do wrong? See, that's the funny thing about this. You do one thing wrong and everything goes berserk. Hey, Miss Lynette, how you doing? Yeah, good to see you. Hey, Miss Coley, great to see you as well. Thank y'all for joining me tonight. Those of y'all lurking out there in the background, make sure just hit like or love. Just say hi. Let me know that you're here. I'd appreciate that. You ain't gotta be a part of the show, but you are a part of the show if you're watching, but you ain't got to get on camera or none of that. Brother Roger, good to see you. Jerry, good to see you, my friend. Very sorry to hear about the loss of your friend. Hope that our condolences. Okay, our condolences. So it's been a great, great week. I want to start off with saying, yeah, happy Father's Day. There you go. Hey, Miss Marion, good to see you. Yeah, happy Father's Day to all the fathers. I got to show off my. I got two of them, but I got a Father's Day card. You can't see it, but I got a handmade Father's Day card. So that was really pretty cool. Baby sis, good to see you, baby sis. So man, a lot's going on this month. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that. I'm gonna talk about a few things wrapped up in one show tonight. So stick around and talk to me, okay? Miss Coley says Happy Father's Day to everybody. I agree with her. So got a little bit to talk about, so I'm gonna jump right into it. Okay, that's right. Please like, love, and share the message tonight. That's right. Um, so thank y'all so much for being here. As always, I know you ain't got to be here, but you guys come and you hang out with me. This week, hey, Miss Charlotte. Thank Miss Charlotte. I am so glad that you are doing better. I'm sorry I didn't see your message last week, but I'm praying for a swift recovery. Hey, Miss Jill, good to see you as well. So looking at the calendar this week, it feels like history, community, and family are all colliding at the same time this week. We had Juneteenth, a powerful reminder of freedom, endurance, and the long journey towards equality. We were right in the middle. We are right in the middle of Pride Month, so that's a real thing. We're celebrating the courage it takes for people to live out their truth, to be who they are. So I guess you could say I'm an ally to that, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Today's Father's Day. Hey, Annette, good to see you. Today is Father's Day, a time to look at the deep, quiet sacrifices of men who anchor our families. And this also happens to be Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. A reminder that, under all the heavy hats that men wear, the burdens we carry and the expectations yeah, society places on us, we have to look out for each other's minds and hearts. So when you step back and look at all four of these milestones together, they aren't separate categories. They're really not. They all um, they are all stories about human beings trying to navigate life, find a connection, and be seen for who they truly are. And it starts with one question: what happens when we actually stop to talk to each other? Hey, daughter, good to see y'all. Make sure y'all hit like, love, and share the message. Oh, I do got to tell y'all one thing before I get further into the message. The shirt that I'm wearing tonight, I got well, it's not the same shirt, but I got these shirts for Father's Day 10 years ago. And I don't know how or why, but I end up wearing them I'll make sure I always wear them on Father's Day. So, yeah, it's kind of anyway. So, this week gave me a whole lot to think about, people. I spent the first part of the week in Santa Ana, California. It's beautiful out there, man. But I was out there for work. Now, if you've ever done any traveling for business, you know exactly what that looks like. It's a lot of moving parts. It's airports, hotels, meetings, rental cars, hotels, plenty of polite surface level conversation with people you've never met before. And then you check into your hotel, you do the job, you pack your bags, and you headed back home before you even know it. Okay. The message tonight is when we talk. That's the message tonight, Coley. When we talk. I finally got home, unpacked my suitcase, and before I even had enough time to sit down and settle back into my normal routine, I found myself looking at the clock and getting ready to head right back out the door. This time, I wasn't catching a flight. I was getting behind the wheel and driving out to Columbus, Ohio. Went out there to go do a comedy show on Saturday night. Hey, daughter, good to see you. Somewhere out there on the road, somewhere between the West Coast and the Midwest, between corporate consulting and stand-up, between the noise in the airport terminals and the quiet hum of the highway at 6 in the morning, I started noticing something, people. No matter where I went, people were still just people. I know that sounds really simple, incredibly simple. It sounds like something you shouldn't ever have to say out loud. But I've learned that sometimes the simplest observations are the absolute most important ones we can make. Because if you stay inside your house, if you turn on your TV and watch the news, or if you just sit there and scroll through social media, it doesn't take long before you start feeling like everybody in the country is entirely divided. Hey, Miss Brown, good to see you. Well, let's see. Jerry says, what did Jerry? Oh, okay. What did Jerry say? My chat box won't come open. I'll just put it up on the screen. How about that? I can't do that either. Oh, there it is. Okay. Jerry says, I just want people to be happy, no matter the color, no matter life choices, just happiness without ugliness. We all have something in common. We all breathe. We all hurt. We do not need to be ugly. Jerry, stop trying to steal my message for the night. I'm gonna do this. I got this. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Jerry. It starts to feel like the world is nothing more than a collection of angry groups that are constantly at war with one another. Depending on what channel you watch or what platform you're scrolling through, you can easily come away with the impression that everybody is mad. Everybody is offended. People are picking sides, and absolutely nobody can agree on anything anymore. We can't even agree that the sky is blue without an argument. And that's sad by itself. You actually step outside, you sit down in the airport terminal, waiting for a delayed flight, hint, hint, and you strike up a conversation, or they strike up a conversation with you, the person sitting next to you. You talk to the waitress at the diner in the middle of the night. You look around at a conference room during a meeting. You stop for gas in the middle of nowhere and chat with a stranger by the pump for 3 minutes. And when you do these things, when you do that, you will discover something that doesn't even seem to make the nightly news headlines anymore, because it doesn't. What you will discover is most people are just out here trying to live their lives. That's all they trying to do, live their lives. They're not trying to live your life. They're not trying to live my life. They're trying to live their lives. And most people are just trying to provide for their families. They're trying to take care of the people they love, pay the bills on time, manage the responsibilities, and figure out how the hell to navigate whatever heavy challenges life has placed right in front of them. That's what people are doing. They might have different opinions than you. They may have different backgrounds and struggles and vote differently than you. But guess what? At the end of the day, when you strip away the noise, they are dealing with the exact same human complexities that you are. As I was driving and thinking about this week, one question kept rolling around in my mind over and over again. And that question was, what happens when we actually talk to each other? Ooh, you mean face to face conversation? Really? What happens? I don't mean debate or argue or posting a paragraph or your opinion online so people can like or dislike And I definitely don't mean making a snap assumption based on what someone else is wearing. What happens when we actually sit down? What happens when we actually sit down, look another human being in the eye, and have a genuine conversation? What happens? Jerry says, when I travel, I make it a point to talk to someone who I might not talk to on a regular on talk to on a regular day for whatever reason. One thing I have found, we are more alike than anyone would like to admit. That is very true. Hey, grandson, Mr. Basil, how you doing? He says it's satisfying listening to you. Oh, thank you, buddy. So the older I get, the more convinced I become that most of our misunderstandings in society begin with long before we have a conversation ever takes place. Before we even have a conversation with people, we have we've gotten incredibly fast at deciding who people are before we know a single real thing about them. We hear a label, we see a headline, we notice a bumper sticker on the car, and we learn where someone grew up, or we hear one single political opinion they happen to hold, and boom, suddenly, we believe we understand their whole story. Brother Smoogie, happy Father's Day to you. Jerry, happy Father's Day to you too. But the truth is, none of us are that simple. Not a single one of us are that simple. Every person you walk past on the street is carrying a lifetime of experiences that helped shape exactly who they are today. Every person has faced deep challenges that you and I absolutely know nothing about, never will. They've survived disappointments and broken hearts and victories that nobody else cheered for. They suffered losses that still hurt when it rains. They they've learned hard lessons that you may never ever have to face. Yet somehow we convince ourselves that we can summarize an entire complex human being with one single label. It's true. Life has taught me that labels rarely, if ever, tell the whole story. So Miss Charlotte says, my friend and I go to lunch, and she says, I talk to everybody. You learn a lot that way and make new friends. That is very true, Charlotte. So over the years, I've had the privilege of meeting people from every imaginable background, every walk of life. Some of them have become my closest friends. Co-workers, I've worked with them. Some folks I just ran into while traveling. Some of y'all I met through comedy. Others I met through speaking engagement. And yeah, a lot of them look different than me. Yeah. They grew up differently. They voted differently. They worship differently. And they live their lives differently than I do. And here's what I've discovered, people. The farther away people are, the easier they are to judge. I'm going to say that again for the folks in the cheap seats. The further away people are, the easier they are to judge. So Jerry says, we live in a world of judgment based on looks and rumors. We should never pass any judgment until we have had a conversation. I know I have judged people unfairly, as have I. When someone exists to you, and only as an idea, let's put it that way, when they exist to you only as an idea, it's incredibly easy to make assumptions about them. When someone exists only as a group, a category, a demographics on a chart, it's easy to believe whatever negative story they've been told or that you've been told about them. Distance has a clever way of simplifying people. It allows us to feel comfortable. It allows us to convince ourselves that we know more than we actually do. The challenge People, the challenge is this, people aren't simple. They are not simple. People are complicated. People are deeply layered. And most of the time, people are carrying heavy things that nobody else around them can see. That's facts. The person who seems completely confident on the outside may be drowning in self doubt when the lights go down. The person who looks incredibly successful on paper might be dealing with a family crisis behind closed doors. The person who seems angry and aggressive might actually just be deeply hurt and defensive. You don't learn those things from a label. You only learn those from a conversation. Buzz says, I finally worked with you just to prove we aren't the same guy. Yeah, we kind of gave that one away, didn't we, Buzz? Good to see you, my friend. Happy Father's Day to you. Annette says, I judge when they hurt others without care or what they choose. I get it. There you go. Um, One thing I've always loved about comedy is that it creates an immediate opportunity for people to come together. For a couple of hours in a dark room, people stop focusing on what separates them and they focus on what they share. They laugh at the exact same stories. They recognize the same everyday struggles. They relate to the same frustrations and the sheer absurdities that come with just being a human being trying to get through the week. Most people just want to get through the week. Comedy has shown me something that I deeply wish more people understood. Most of us have a whole lot of a whole lot more in common than we think. Oh, thank you for the $5, Buzz. Happy Father's Day to you too. The details might be different, but the emotions are exactly the same. The stories might look different on the surface, but the lessons feel entirely familiar. A parent worried about their child sounds exactly like any other parent worried about theirs. No matter what neighborhood they live in, someone grieving the loss of a loved one understands the exact weight of another person's grief. That's real. The more conversations I have throughout my life, the more I see those quiet connections. Now, that doesn't mean we all are identical. It doesn't. No, people, Buzz and I do not look exactly alike. Some people confuse us, but we're actually two different people. It doesn't mean our experiences are the same, and it definitely doesn't mean we're going to agree on every topic under the sun. We're just not. We're not built that way. But what it does mean is that there is always more to a person than what appears on the surface. That's real. I think one of the greatest mistakes we make in modern culture is assuming that understanding someone requires agreeing with them. Baby, let me be the first one to tell you, it doesn't. It doesn't. I got two buddies, and we are politically opposites like night and day. But I know that they would do anything for me, and I would do anything for them. We're in business together, but we can look past our differences and still be friends and business people together. So, understanding doesn't mean surrender. It simply means taking the time to listen. It means being curious enough to ask a question instead of making a statement. It means recognizing that another person's life story might actually contain a lesson that you don't already know. You don't know how to be an astronaut. Maybe they do. My buddy, hey, Roger says, it's harder for me to talk to a friend that knows about me than a stranger. I love talking to someone I know nothing about and knows nothing about me. People see my tattoos and goatee, etc., and think I'm a bad person. I'm sorry, Roger. I didn't think that when I met you, buddy. And not everybody assumes that. So I want you to hear me on that. Not everybody assumes that. Okay. But after you open your mouth and remove all doubt that you are a good person, I'm sure people tend to like you a whole lot more, don't they? Yeah. So as I travel, as I was traveling and looking at the calendar this week, I realized something. I realized that the timing of everything made this lesson hit even harder for me. Excuse me, because right now, history, community, and human identity are all colliding at the same time. And you're right, Buzz, because when you assume Friday was Juneteenth, a lot of people still don't know what Juneteenth is. Now, me as a black man born in Texas, Juneteenth has always held a deep personal significance for me. I didn't always get to celebrate it like I wanted to because not everybody around me knew what it was. I had one supervisor tell me I was trying to take off for a fake holiday. He wanted to write me up for it. But long before it became a federal holiday celebrated across the country, it was a core part of history I grew up learning about. It wasn't just another date on the calendar or an excuse for a long weekend. It was a spark. It was stark. It was a powerful reminder of where we came from, what the people before us endured, and just how long and exhausting the journey towards freedom and equality has been. For anybody who might not know what that, know the exact history, here's just a quick blurb. Juneteenth marks the day back in 1865 when enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, finally learned that they were free after after they had been free for more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation had already been signed by the president. So yeah, they got an extra 2 years out of the people because they just didn't tell them that they were free. But think about that for a moment. Annette, I see you coming. I'm going to come to it in a second. Freedom had already been declared legally. The reality had shifted, but not everyone knew it. The news hadn't traveled to everyone. Not yet. They, there were human beings living under a brutal, exhausting burden that legally no longer belonged to them, simply because nobody had come down and had the conversation with them and told them the truth. That specific part of history has always stuck with me, not just because of the historical weight, but because there is a timeless lesson hidden right inside of it for all of us today. Sometimes, sometimes people are walking around carrying heavy burdens they were never meant to carry. Sometimes we're living under old assumptions that no longer are true. Sometimes we are completely trapped by old wounds, old fears, old beliefs, or labels that were placed on them years ago that should no longer define who we are. Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all simmer with that for a second. Smoogie says, I assume that, and I've never met Roger. Oh, Jesus. He is a great guy. I like him a lot. I do. Annette says, I try very hard to love everyone, but after wearing a uniform, it's hard to see the destruction of what are symbols. I love Washington, D.C. I get that. Buzz says, Smoogie is right. Roger got some issues. And we can thank Opal Lee for her sacrifice to make it a holiday. Yes, sir. Miss Opal. So let's move forward. This month is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Yeah, let that sink in. And when I think about the history of Juneteenth and people carrying a weight, exhausting burdens, and carrying exhausting burdens in silence simply because the communication was not there, I can't help but think about the millions of men walking around today doing the exact same thing with their minds and their hearts. You see how I transition over to that? Did y'all see that? Give me some loves, give me some likes, put some 100s in the columns if you saw that in the chat. As men, we are taught from the time we were boys to be a rock. We're supposed to be rocks. We're supposed to be strong, and we were told to provide and protect and keep it moving. And whatever we do, never let them see you sweat. And you bet not let them see you cry. We swallow our anxiety. We bottle up our depression. Yeah, we do this. We hide our fear of failure behind anger, or we hide it behind long hours at work, or behind a smile and a joke. That's part of how I became a comedian. We convince ourselves that talking about our struggles is a sign of weakness. So we carry the burden alone. We live in a self-imposed isolation, suffering in silence because we think nobody wants to hear it. Or worse, that nobody will understand what we're going through. We treat our mental health like a secret we have to protect. But one single honest conversation can break that cycle. One conversation can bring understanding where there was darkness. One conversation can deliver hope. It can let a man know that he is not crazy. He's not failing. He's not alone. One conversation can literally save a human life. And the same thing goes for women too. I'm not leaving anybody out. I'm not leaving anybody out. No, I've never delivered a baby. You're right. I haven't. I've been there when one popped out, a couple of them, 3 of them, but I never delivered a baby. You're right, Smoogie, and nobody cares. What if they will not get treatment? If I had the answer to that one, Annette, I'd be a millionaire because I could write the book about it. But you're right, Smoogie. People do care. They do. So I know it can because I've seen it happen. And if I'm being honest with you, I've experienced it myself. There's been distinct moments in my own life where one single conversation completely changed the direction I was heading. Sometimes it was rough. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough. It was tough advice from a mentor who cared enough to look me in the eye. Sometimes it was difficult, uncomfortable discussions that I didn't want to have. But I desperately needed to have that conversation. Sometimes it was someone taking the time to tell me exactly what I needed to hear instead of just what I wanted to hear. I don't think you hear me. They told me they were willing to tell me not what I needed to hear. I mean, they were willing to tell me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. If you felt that, put me a heart in the chat, because we do that. We'll tell people what they want to hear, but we're scared to look them in the eye and tell them the truth. When I look back over that, over my life, military, business, comedy, speaking, I can point directly to moments where one conversation made all the difference. This is exactly why I will never underestimate the power of a simple talking to people. I mean, of simply talking to people. I don't underestimate it because it worked for me. And that brings me right back to Friday night in Columbus, Ohio. Saturday night in Columbus. There I was, Juneteenth, the day after Juneteenth. I was ready to take the stage and perform at a comedy show supporting Pride Month. Now, I didn't know I was supporting Pride Month. I knew who the headliner was. It was Flame Monroe. But I did not know that that was the theme of the night. You know why? Because I didn't care. All I know is I was going to make some people laugh. That's all I cared about. And my friend Misha invited me to come and be on this show. Now, let me be clear and plain with you. I am not a member of that community. I'm not. I'm an ally. And most people who know me know that. But I accepted the opportunity to perform because at the end of the day, I am a comedian. My job description is to stand on stage and bring people together through the medicine of laughter. And I believe with everything I have that there is an immense value in showing up for people. Even when their everyday life experience looks completely different than your own. In fact, the headline of the show was a transgender woman. I've known her through comedy, over 20 years. We weren't close friends, but we've crossed paths in the business for, like I say, for 20 years, 2 decades. And I can remember clear back to when I first met her all those years ago. I had an immense amount of respect for the fact that she was brave enough to live her life out loud, completely regardless of what people had to say. I'm sorry, my daughter says, I say things exactly how I think it, and sometimes people don't take it well. Yeah, I can understand that. Ego, denial are not easy to admit. That's very true. Who is that talking to me over on LinkedIn? I got to peek and see. Oh, it's Brox. Hey, Brox, good to see you, buddy. You're right, baby sis. Laughter has no color, exactly, or gender. You're absolutely right. Laughter in music is God's best gift. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, seeing her up there headline in that room wasn't about a headline, a label, or a political debate for me. It was about a fellow comic I've respected for half my adult life. Well, a little bit less than half my adult life. And you know what struck me the most while I was standing in that room that night? It wasn't how different everyone was. What struck me was how incredibly familiar everything felt. I looked around the room before the show started. People were sitting around talking with their friends, and people were laughing so hard. Once the show started, they were laughing so hard they were wiping their eyes. They were taking pictures together after the show, sharing stories, pouring drinks. That was at the after party. And just taking a much needed break from the heavy pressures of everyday life. In other words, people were doing exactly what people do. The more I looked around the room, the more I found myself thinking about how often we all allow societal labels to build high walls and create artificial distance between us. We hear a label, we label the room, and we stop right there. We never get curious. We never ask questions. We never open our mouths to have a real conversation. We just quietly decide that someone is different, and we leave it at that. Annette said, we had a Navy vet today, homeless, 2 years, did not want to be around people. Wow. Baby sis says, and they're gonna be just fine, Queen. Sometimes truth hurts. Yeah, the truth does hurt. Mr. Net does it to me all the time. I try to put together an outfit that I think I'm looking cute, and she tell me, "No, you're looking real curious right about now." So yeah, I get my feelings hurt, but it's for a good reason. Labels only tell you a tiny fractured faction of the story. A label doesn't tell you about someone's private struggles. It doesn't tell you about their dreams when they were 20 or when the dreams what they dream about now. It doesn't tell you about the people they love, the losses they've endured, or the small victories that they get to celebrate. Sometimes they celebrate them by themselves. It doesn't tell you about the fears that keep them awake at night at 2 o'clock in the morning, or the hope that gets them out of bed at 6 the next day. At 3 o'clock this morning, Eastern time, I was wide awake, looking crazy because I had some things banging around in my head, and I had to pray them away. But nobody sees that. Only conversations reveal those things. Only listening reveals those things. I think one of the main reasons our society is struggling so deeply right now is because too many people are trying to understand each other without actually talking to each other. That is why me and my two friends get along with me, and I get along with them, because they'll ask me a question. Hey, Vernon, can you tell me about this? Or I'll ask them a question, and there's no judgment. We talk to each other. We have become absolutely world class experts at talking about people. We talk around people. We talk past people on the internet. But what we are losing day by day is the basics, the basics, the basics. Human ability to talk with people. Those are entirely different things. Talking about someone is cheap and is easy. Talking with them requires effort. Talking about someone allows you to keep your neat little assumptions intact. Talking with them forces you to examine them. Ooh. Talking about them or talking about someone keeps you comfortable in your own lane. Talking with them just might challenge your entire perspective. Excuse me. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly why so many people avoid it. Because real conversations require a little bit of humility. It requires us to admit that we don't know everything. It forces us to acknowledge that our own personal understanding of the world is incomplete. Many only know how to talk, but not willing to listen. That is very true. I'm going to put that up on the screen. Maybe. That's exactly why so many people avoid it. Because real conversations require a little bit of humility. They do. And the older I get, the more comfortable I become with that idea. I don't know everything. I never will. I don't want to know everything. And when I meet someone whose experiences are completely different than mine, someone who has faced challenges I have never had to look at, that doesn't threaten me. That gets me like this. Tell me more. Oh no, you sure you got to go? You got 5 more minutes? Because I want to learn. It interests me because every single conversation becomes an opportunity to learn something new. So as I begin to wrap up the week and pulling all these thoughts together, You're right, daughter. It forces them to see themselves. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But as I was pulling all these things together, I realized there was one final piece of the puzzle sitting right in front of me today. Today is Father's Day. Um, Happy Father's Day to my son. I know you're listening, sitting there by your wife. Happy Father's Day. Now, of all the different roles I have played in my life, and happy Father's Day, Brox. Out of all the roles I played in my life and all the titles I've had attached to my name, being a father remains one I value above almost everything else. I've worked in corporate America. I've traveled all over this country, did the Army thing. I've stood on stages making people, crowds of people laugh as a comedian. And I've stood at podiums delivering keynotes to massive audiences. I've been blessed to write books and train teams. I've even coached leaders. My son and I used to coach Little League football together. Yeah. I have worn a whole lot of different hats over the course of my career and over my life. I'll take that, daughter. I'll take that. Daddy is the best title. Yeah, it is a great title. Don't make me cry. Some of those experiences were incredibly exciting. They were. Some were stressful. Some of them opened doors I never knew existed. They did. But being a father, a daddy, that is entirely different. Being a parent is one of the few jobs on this earth that you never, ever truly stop doing. Trust me, I know. Our children grow up, they move away, they start careers, families, and they become successful in ways that make you shake your head with pride. But no matter how old they get, no matter how tall they grow, they're still your children. You still worry about them when the phone rings late at night or early in the morning. You still pray for them every single day. You still celebrate their victories like they're your own. And you still hurt deep in your chest when they hurt. You just want the best for them. And being a dad brings us right back to that conversation about mental health. Because fathers are usually the ones expected to carry the heaviest loads without ever complaining. We carry the financial pressure, the emotional pressure, the responsibilities of guiding a family or guiding a whole clan. And we do it while trying to make sure our kids never see us fracture, never see us struggle. But fathers get tired too. Fathers struggle too. Fathers fight invisible battles against anxiety, depression, and stress, all while trying to maintain that solid exterior. You're right, daughter. Any man can be a father. It takes a real man to be a daddy. Roger is an example of that daddy. Being a father is what keeps me going. It's a blessing. Roger is a daddy. I've learned a lot of tough lessons from being a dad, but there's one that stands out above all the rest. Love completely changes the way you see people. It does. When you become a parent, sometimes something fundamental shifts inside your soul. Suddenly, your heart is permanently connected to someone else's future. You start looking at the world through a completely different lens. The things that actually matter become crystal clear, and the petty things that don't matter become a whole lot easier to just ignore. Our children are our hearts walking around in the world outside of our chest. They are. And as I thought about Father's Day today, I found myself thinking about fathers everywhere, not just the fathers who look like me, not just the fathers who grew up where I grew up or who think that the way I think, just fathers, period. I thought about the fathers working two jobs, exhausted to be, just worn exhausted to the bone, just to keep food on the table and shoes on their kids' feet. I thought about the fathers serving overseas in the military, looking at a smartphone screen instead of missing missing birthdays and holidays because he's standing a post. I thought about the dad in the driveway teaching his child how to ride a bicycle, and the dad sitting in the sterile hospital waiting room just praying for good news. I thought about the father worrying about his teenager who just got their driver's license, and dad lifting heavy boxes, helping his child move into their very first apartment. The details of those lives are completely different, but the emotions, they are remarkably beautifully similar. Most fathers at the root of it want the exact same basic things. They want their children to be safe. They want them to have opportunities they didn't have. They want them to grow up to be good, decent human beings. And they want them to live a life filled with purpose and meaning. When you really stop to think about it, those deep parental desires cross every single imaginary line that society tries to draw to keep us apart. Race doesn't change that. Politics doesn't change that. Religion, geography, income, none of that changes that. A father's love for his child speaks a universal language that any human being can understand if they choose to. And maybe, just maybe, that is the ultimate lesson of the week. The closer we get to people, the more common ground we find. The farther away we stay, the easier it becomes to just focus on our differences. Yeah. Daughter says, I feel that, know that, and love that kind of love. Yeah. Brock says, where'd it go? I find faith and love is your guiding light. True. Annette says, when a parent is a emotional groom to their mother, they cannot love. Dad worked 3 jobs. He taught my daughter to ride a bike, play baseball, and gave her good morals. Every hospital stayed with her. Roger says, becoming a father has been a huge blessing, and I probably wouldn't be here if it didn't happen. Roger, makes 2 of us, but we're not going to talk about that tonight. All right, I'm getting ready to wrap this up, y'all. I know it's a long show tonight, but I had a lot I wanted to say. Honestly, I did not know what I wanted to say. I just started writing about my week, and this is what we got. So thank y'all for sticking in here with me as I get ready to close this out. I know it was a long show, but I love you, and I thank y'all for being here with me. So here we go. The thoughts followed me across every mile I traveled this week. I thought about it in California. I thought about it in Ohio. I thought about it during Juneteenth. I thought about it through the lens of men's mental health. And I thought about it today while reflecting on Father's Day. And the common thread running through every single one of those moments was people. Different people, stories, backgrounds, different perspectives. Yet underneath all of it, I kept seeing the exact same core truths. I saw people who wanted to be respected. I saw people who just wanted to feel accepted for who they are. I saw people who wanted a fair shot at an opportunity. And I saw people who just wanted to spend uninterrupted time with the folks they cared about. I saw human beings trying to navigate a complicated life the best way they knew how. The older I get, the more convinced I become that most of us are not nearly as different as we imagine we are. Every single person you meet knows what it feels like to experience a deep loss. Every person knows what it feels like to hope for something better tomorrow. Every person knows the heavy weight of worrying about someone they love. And every person knows what it feels like to face complete uncertainty. Those are the things that connect us, whether we have the courage to acknowledge them or not. Thank you, Ms. Brown. But unfortunately, so many of those beautiful connections stay completely hidden because we stop at the label. We stop at the category. We stop at the stereotype. And we pull the emergency brake before the conversation even has a chance to begin. Huh. I hit the wrong button. So, God bless you to continue to believe in God and in yourself. Yes, sir. That's going to happen. This is why conversations matter so deeply. Not because they guarantee we're all going to agree at the end of the night. Not because they magically solve every complex problem, not because they erase our real differences. Conversations matter because they violently remind us that there is a living, breathing human being sitting on the other side of the table or sitting beside you, a human being with a story, a human being with struggles, hopes, fears, a human being just trying to make sense of this life, just like the rest of us. When we lose sight of that, it becomes incredibly easy to dismiss people. But when we choose to remember it, something shifts inside us. We become just a little more patient. We become a little more understanding. We become a little more compassionate and a whole lot more willing to just sit still and listen. And sometimes, folks, just being listened to is exactly what another person needs to survive the day. I'm going to say that again. Just being listened to is exactly what another person needs to survive the day. I've often said that everybody you meet is out here fighting a battle that you know absolutely nothing about. And the longer I live, the more convinced I become that the statement is absolute truth. The person who is smiling the widest might be hurting the deepest. The person cracking the jokes might be struggling just to keep it together. The person who looks like a rock might be completely exhausted. You don't know until you take the time to talk to them. So I'm going to leave you with the question we started with. What happens when we actually talk to each other? What happens when we actually talk to each other? I'll tell you what happens. We begin to replace lazy assumptions with real understanding. We begin to replace rigid stereotypes with beautiful stories. We begin to replace the cold distance between us with genuine human connections. And most importantly, we finally begin to see each other the way we were always meant to be seen. Not as a category, not as a political position, not a social media profile, a label, or stereotype, but as a person. You're right, barriers removed. This week reminded me that the world looks completely different up close than it does from a distance. From a distance, people can become ideas. Up close, they become human beings. From a distance, our differences look massive. But up close, our common ground becomes easy to find. Because every once in a while, a real conversation reminds us of something we should have known all along. The person standing right in front of you is a human being with a story worth hearing. And when we actually take the time to talk to each other, we almost always discover that we have a whole lot more in common than we have ever imagined. I say a prayer every day. It's a piece of my prayer that I say every morning. I pray that my name is spoken positively in rooms that I am not in. The only way somebody can speak positively about me in a room that I am not in is if they've had a conversation with me and they know me, or they know enough about me to speak positively about me. So thank y'all so much for spending part of the evening with me. I know it's a long show, but it needed to be said. So as always, I love you. God loves you. Take care of yourself. Love yourself. Respect yourself. Take care of each other. Somebody out there in your circle, especially some man you know who looks like he's got it all together, might be desperately needing the exact conversation you've been putting off. Reach out to them. Check on them. And when you do, listen just a little bit longer than you normally would. You never know what a simple conversation may change. Give them kids a hug for me. Take care of them babies. Respect our vets. This has been another episode of Messages in the Madness. I have been your host, and your host will be your host, Vernon Longhorn Davis. And this officially is the longest show we have ever done. God bless y'all. $2.